The Valori Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered 4,000 star systems. They had crushed 100 species beneath their boots. Their warships darkened the skies of countless worlds, and their name was spoken with fear from one end of the galaxy to the other. So, when their long-range sensors detected a small group of ships coming from an uncharted region of space, High Arbiter Kessin did not worry. He sat on his throne made of crystal and gold, and he listened to his scout commander's report with something close to boredom. "They call themselves humanity," said Scout Commander Thurl. She stood before the throne, her pale blue skin catching the light from the massive windows behind her. 12 vessels, my lord. They emerged from the outer spiral arm 3 cycles ago. Kessin raised one eyebrow. 12 vessels. That is all? That is all. Tyrell activated her holographic display. The images floated in the air between them, showing the human ships in perfect detail. They were small things, barely a kilometer long. Their hulls were made of simple metal alloys. Their engines burned with the light of fusion reactors, a technology the Valori had abandoned thousands of years ago as primitive. "They look like children's toys," said Senator Warmack from his seat among the gathered nobles. Laughter rippled through the throne room. Kessin did not laugh. He studied the images with cold, calculating eyes. "What do they want?" "Their leader requests a meeting," Thurl replied. "She calls herself Admiral Chen. She speaks of trade, cultural exchange, and peace between our peoples." More laughter from the senators. Peace. As if such a small species could offer anything but submission to the Valori Empire. "Show me this, Admiral," Kessin commanded. The hologram shifted. A human female appeared before them. She was old by human standards, with gray hair cut short and a face lined with age. She wore a simple uniform of dark blue, with no gold or jewels to show her rank. But it was her eyes that caught Kessin's attention. They were dark and calm, like deep water that hid unknown depths. And she was smiling. "Greetings to the great Valori Empire," the recorded message played. "I am Admiral Chen of the United Earth Expeditionary Corps. We come in peace, seeking friendship and mutual benefit. Our people are few, but we believe that all species can learn from one another. We humbly request formal diplomatic relations," the message ended. The throne room fell silent for a moment, then erupted in mocking voices. "Humble indeed," sneered Senator Warmack. "They know their place already." Kessin raised his hand, and silence fell. "Commander Thurl, what does our intelligence division say about these humans?" Thurl consulted her data tablet. "We have completed our initial assessment, my lord. The humans possess approximately 200 vessels of similar construction to those we have observed. They have colonized 40 worlds in their region of space. Their total population numbers roughly 18 billion individuals. 18 billion. Kessin almost smiled. The Valori Empire counted its citizens in the trillions. Continue. Their military doctrine appears entirely defensive. They have no offensive weapons capable of threatening our shields. Their ships cannot match our speed. Their soldiers use projectile weapons and primitive energy rifles." Thurl paused. "In summary, my lord, they present no threat whatsoever." Kessin leaned back on his throne. He looked out the great windows at the stars beyond, at the vast empire he commanded. 200 ships, 40 worlds, 18 billion souls. It was almost too small to bother with. Almost. "They have resources," he said slowly. "Worlds, workers. These things have value." "You suggest annexation, my lord?" asked Senator Warmack eagerly. "I suggest patience." Kessin turned back to the hologram of Admiral Chen, still frozen with that strange smile on her face. "We will accept their request for diplomacy. We will smile and speak of peace while our forces position themselves around their territory. And when the time is right, we will add their 40 worlds to our empire." The senators murmured their approval. It was a good plan. It was the way the Valori had always operated. Smile first, then strike. Thyrell bowed her head in acceptance of the order, but something troubled her. She had watched the human admiral's message many times, studying every detail. The woman's calm was not the calm of ignorance. It was not the calm of a leader who did not understand what she faced. It was the calm of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Over the next several weeks, the diplomatic process began. Admiral Chen and her small delegation were welcomed to the Valori homeworld with all the proper ceremonies. They walked through the great halls of the imperial palace. They attended feasts and cultural displays. They smiled and bowed and spoke polite words about friendship and cooperation. And through it all, Thurl watched. She watched how the humans observed everything with quiet attention. She watched how they asked questions that seemed innocent but revealed deep intelligence. She watched how Admiral Chen moved through the palace like someone who had walked through many palaces before. On many different worlds, across many long years. "You seem troubled?" Commander Admiral Chen said one evening. They stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city, a sea of light stretching to the horizon. Thurl hesitated. Speaking honestly to a future enemy was not wise. But something about this human made her want to ask the question that had been burning in her mind. "Your ships are weak," Thurl said bluntly. "Your weapons are primitive. You must know that you cannot match our power. Yet you do not seem afraid." Admiral Chen turned to look at her. That smile again, small and patient. "Should I be afraid, Commander?" "Yes, you should be terrified." The human admiral looked out at the city lights. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "My people have a saying, Commander. The river does not fear the mountain. It simply finds another way." She turned back to Thurl. "We have been traveling the stars for a very long time. We have learned many things. One of the most important lessons is this: the first thing you show someone is rarely the last thing you have." Before Thurl could ask what she meant, Admiral Chen bowed politely and walked away. 3 days later, the diplomatic mission was declared a failure. The Valori Empire announced that humanity had refused reasonable terms for integration. Admiral Chen and her 12 ships were sent home in what the Empire called disgrace. The conquest of human space began. Thurl was assigned to the invasion fleet. 200 warships, more than enough to crush any resistance. As they prepared to jump to human territory, she found herself thinking about the admiral's words. "The first thing you show someone is rarely the last thing you." Have she looked out at the stars and wondered what humanity was? Hiding, she would find out soon enough. The invasion of human space happened exactly as the Valori had planned. 200 warships emerged from hyperspace around the first human colony world, a planet called New Helsinki. The orbital defense stations detected them immediately. Warning signals flashed across every frequency. Emergency protocols activated throughout the colony. And then, to the complete surprise of the Valori commanders, the defense stations powered down. "They are surrendering," reported the fleet admiral, his voice thick with confusion. Without a single shot fired, Kessin received the news on his throne, and a slow smile spread across his face. "Of course they are. They understand mathematics. 200 warships against their pitiful defenses? They would be fools to resist." The pattern repeated across human space. World after world, colony after colony, the humans simply stepped aside. Their patrol ships retreated without engaging. Their planetary governments sent messages of compliance. Their populations lined up for registration and integration into the Empire. Within 3 weeks, all 40 human colonies had fallen under Valori control. The expeditionary fleet surrounded Earth itself, humanity's homeworld, a blue and green jewel floating in the darkness. The humans transmitted urgent pleas for negotiation, for mercy, for more time. Kessin ignored them all. "The conquest is complete," he announced to the Senate. "Humanity is ours." The celebration lasted for days. Feasts and ceremonies and speeches about the glory of the Empire. Kessin was praised as a genius, a leader who had expanded Valora territory without losing a single ship. It was the cleanest victory in Imperial history. But on the conquered worlds, things were not quite right. Governor Malthon was assigned to oversee New Helsinki. He was a veteran administrator, experienced in managing newly conquered populations. He knew what to expect: fear, resentment, hidden resistance movements, the slow breaking of spirits that always followed conquest. He found none of these things. The humans of New Helsinki went about their daily lives as if nothing had changed. They worked in their factories. They attended their schools. They laughed and talked in their market squares. When Valori soldiers walked past, the humans simply nodded politely and continued with their business. It was deeply unsettling. "They do not fear us," Malthon reported to Thurl, who had been assigned as military liaison to his sector. "I have governed a dozen conquered species. All of them showed the proper reactions: terror, submission, hatred, something. These humans show nothing." Thurl walked with him through the streets of the colony's main city. She watched the human faces, looking for any sign of the emotions Malthon described. She found only calm, patience, and occasionally something that looked almost like amusement. "Perhaps they are simply practical," she suggested, though she did not believe it herself. Malthon stopped walking. He pointed to a group of human children playing in a park. They were laughing, running, throwing a ball back and forth. They did not look like children whose world had been conquered. I reviewed their educational databases. "Do you know what they teach their young ones?" Thyro shook her head. "They teach them something called the long game. It is part of their basic curriculum from the earliest ages. History, strategy, patience. They teach their children to think in centuries, not years." That night, Thurl visited the colony's central library. She found a human elder there, a woman with white hair and kind eyes, who introduced herself as Professor Leo. When Thurl asked about the long game, the professor smiled. "It is how we survive," Professor Lu said simply. "Our ancestors learned long ago that the universe is a dangerous place. There are many species out there, and not all of them are friendly. Some of them are very powerful. So our ancestors decided that we would never reveal our true selves to strangers. We would show only what we wanted others to see." "And what have you shown us?" Thyril asked. The professor's smile widened. "You arrived ahead of schedule, Commander. We were not expecting to meet anyone for another century or so. You caught us before we were ready to greet you properly." "What does that mean?" But the professor only shook her head and returned to her reading. Thurl filed a detailed report about her findings. She described the strange calm of the human population. She quoted Professor Lu's words about the long game. She expressed her concern that humanity was not behaving like a conquered species. The Senate dismissed her. Report. "Psychological manipulation," declared Senator Wormack. "The humans are trying to unsettle us with their strange behavior. It is the last tactic of a defeated people. We should ignore it," Kessin agreed. The conquest was complete. The numbers were clear. Humanity had 200 ships, and the Empire had 80,000. There was nothing more to discuss. But Thurl could not shake her unease. She began to investigate more deeply. She accessed Imperial intelligence files, searching for anything unusual in human space. What she found disturbed her. The human colonies were strangely minimal. Cities existed, but they seemed temporary, as if they had been built quickly and could be abandoned just as quickly. Factories produced goods, but they operated at perhaps 20% of their potential capacity. Roads and infrastructure connected major settlements, but vast regions of each planet remained completely undeveloped. It was as if the humans had never intended to stay. Most troubling were the energy readings from the outer edges of human space. Imperial sensors detected faint gravitational echoes coming from the void beyond the galaxy's edge. The echoes suggested massive objects, thousands of them, moving slowly through the emptiness between galaxies. But when Thyril requested a detailed scan of the region, the sensors showed nothing there. "Equipment malfunction," the technicians told her. "There is nothing in the intergalactic void. Nothing can survive there. It is empty." Threll wanted to believe them. She wanted to believe that the conquest was real, that humanity was truly defeated, that the strange behavior of the colonists was just a desperate attempt to maintain dignity in the face of overwhelming loss. Then she intercepted a transmission from Earth. It was encrypted, using methods that Imperial codebreakers could not crack. But through the encryption, Thyral could see the video feed of Admiral Chen, still wearing her dark blue uniform, still speaking in that calm and patient voice, and still smiling. The Admiral was supposed to be confined to Earth, disgraced and defeated. But she did not look like a defeated woman. She looked like someone who was exactly where she wanted to be, doing exactly what she had planned. Thyral stared at the frozen image for a long time. Somewhere, in the darkness beyond the galaxy, something was waiting. Thyral was certain of it now. The humans had shown the Empire their doorstep, their garden, their welcome mat, but they had not shown what lay behind the door, and Thyral was beginning to fear the answer. 6 months passed since the conquest of humanity. The Valori Empire had settled into comfortable occupation. Governors managed the 40 colony worlds. Tax collectors gathered tribute. Soldiers patrolled the streets and maintained order. By every measure, humanity belonged to the Empire now. High Arbiter Kessin received weekly reports that told him exactly what he wanted to hear. Production quotas were being met. Resistance movements did not exist. The human population was cooperative and obedient. It was the most successful conquest in Imperial history. It was also... Intelligence Director Vrain had begun to suspect a complete lie. Vrain was an old spy. With cold eyes and a mind that never stopped working, he had spent his entire life uncovering secrets, and he knew when something was being hidden from him. The human occupation felt wrong. It was too clean, too easy, too perfect. He began his investigation quietly, without informing the Senate. What he found made his blood run cold. The first anomaly was the communication networks. Human colonies generated a normal amount of civilian traffic, messages between families, business communications, government announcements, but beneath this surface, Vrain detected something else. Massive amounts of encrypted data were flowing between human worlds. Using coding methods that Imperial systems could not break, the volume of this secret traffic was enormous. Far more than a conquered population should need. Far more than simple resistance could explain. What are they talking about? Vrain demanded of his codebreakers. We do not know, Director. The encryption is unlike anything we have ever seen. It would take our systems centuries to crack. Centuries. The humans were supposed to be primitive. How did they possess encryption that surpassed Valori technology? The second anomaly came from deep space monitoring stations. Sensors along the galactic rim were detecting gravitational disturbances from the intergalactic void. The readings suggested massive objects moving through the emptiness between galaxies. Hundreds of objects, perhaps thousands, but visual scans showed nothing. It is impossible, the station commanders reported. There is nothing there. The void is empty. These readings must be errors. Vrain did not believe in errors. He believed in hidden truths. The third anomaly was discovered on Mars, the fourth planet of humanity's home system. Imperial survey teams were mapping the world when their sensors detected a vast underground structure. They sent drones to investigate. The complex stretched for hundreds of kilometers beneath the Martian surface. It contained living quarters, manufacturing facilities, medical bays, and storage areas. It was designed to house millions of people. It was completely empty. The architecture suggested rapid evacuation capability. Transport tubes connected every section. Emergency systems could seal any area in seconds. The entire complex could be emptied in less than an hour. But emptied to where? Vrain traveled to Mars personally to investigate. He walked through the silent corridors, his footsteps echoing in the darkness. The facility was old, perhaps several centuries by human standards. It had been used, maintained, and then abandoned. In one of the command centers, Vrain found a human, an elderly man named Thomas, who claimed to be a maintenance worker left behind to monitor the systems. Where did they go? Vrain demanded. The people who lived here? Where did they evacuate to? Thomas was sitting in a chair, completely relaxed, as if being interrogated by the intelligence director of the conquering empire was just another ordinary day. He looked at Vrain with eyes that held no fear. You are asking the wrong question, Director. Then what is the right question? Thomas smiled. It was the same smile Vrain had seen on Admiral Chen's face. Patient, knowing, almost kind. You have been very thorough, Thomas said. You conquered our colonies. You surrounded our homeworld. You searched our ships, our cities, our databases. You counted our population. You measured our technology. You believed you understood us completely. We do understand, you know. Thomas shook his head slowly. You found our porch. You searched our garden shed. You looked very carefully through our mailbox. But you never asked the most important question of all. Vrain felt a chill run down his spine. What question? Thomas leaned forward. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. Where do we actually live? The words hung in the air between them. Vrain wanted to dismiss them as the ramblings of an old man trying to sound mysterious. But he could not. The empty complex around them proved that Thomas was telling the truth about something. You have nowhere else, Vrain said, but his voice lacked conviction. We scanned your entire territory. There are no other worlds. No hidden colonies. No secret bases. Thomas laughed. It was a gentle sound, without mockery or cruelty. Director, you scanned our territory. The 40 worlds we showed you. The 200 ships we let you see. The 18 billion people we allowed you to count. He spread his hands. Did it never occur to you to wonder why a species that has been traveling among the stars for so long would have only 40 worlds? Only 200 ships? Only 18 billion people? Vrain stared at him. How long have your people been in space? He asked. Thomas's smile widened. 11,000 years. The number hit Vrain like a physical blow. 11,000 years. The Valori Empire was only 10,000 years old. Humanity was older than the Empire itself. That is impossible, Vrain whispered. In 11,000 years, you would have expanded to fill the galaxy. You would have trillions of people. Millions of worlds. We would be what, Director? Thomas interrupted. Visible? Obvious? Easy to find? He shook his head. We tried that once a very long time ago. We learned that the universe does not reward those who announce themselves too loudly. So we became quiet. We became patient. We became invisible. Where? Vrain demanded. Where are you hiding? Thomas pointed upward, toward the stars, toward the vast darkness between galaxies, where you never thought to look. Vrain left Mars immediately. He ordered every sensor the Empire possessed to scan the intergalactic void. He demanded reports from every monitoring station along the galactic rim. The sensors found nothing, but the gravitational echoes continued. Massive objects moving slowly, coming closer. Something was out there in the darkness. Vrain could feel it now, like a weight pressing down on his chest. Humanity had not been conquered. Humanity had been waiting, and whatever they were waiting for was almost here. The celebration in the Imperial Palace was the grandest the Empire had ever seen. 10,000 nobles gathered to honor the anniversary of humanity's conquest. The great hall blazed with light from 1,000,000 crystals. Music filled the air. Servants moved through the crowd carrying trays of rare delicacies from 100 conquered worlds. High Arbiter Kessin stood on his balcony above the celebration, accepting the praise of his people. He had done what no arbiter before him had accomplished. He had expanded the empire without losing a single ship. The human conquest would be remembered for generations. Then the emergency transmission arrived. A servant rushed to Kessin's side, his face pale with terror. He carried a data tablet with trembling hands. My lord, the servant whispered. We have lost contact with 17 monitoring stations. Kessin frowned. Equipment malfunction? No, my lord. The stations. They simply went silent. All at once. As if they witnessed something and forgot to transmit. The celebration continued below, but Kessin felt the first cold touch of fear in his heart. 17 stations. All along the galactic rim, the region where Intelligence Director Vrain had reported those strange gravitational echoes. Show me, Kessin commanded. They moved to the command center, a secure room deep within the palace. Vrain was already there, along with Scout Commander Thiril and a dozen senior officers. Their faces told Kessin everything he needed to know. Something terrible was happening. "The first images are coming through now," Vrain said, his voice barely above a whisper. The stations recorded this before they went silent. The holographic display activated. At first, Kessin saw only darkness. The void between galaxies empty and infinite. Stars were visible in the distance, but the space between them was black. Then the darkness moved. They emerged from nothing. From the spaces where nothing should exist. Ships. The first wave numbered in the hundreds. Kessin tried to count them, but more kept appearing. Thousands, then tens of thousands. Then numbers so large that the Imperial counting systems simply stopped working. "That is impossible," Kessin breathed. "Nothing can hide in the void. There is no energy, no resources, nothing to sustain life." "Apparently," Thurl said quietly, "we were wrong." The ships themselves defied understanding. They were enormous, each one hundreds of kilometers long. Their forms were graceful and alien, built from materials that glowed with inner light. They did not look like military vessels. They looked like cathedrals, like temples, like the dreams of gods made physical. They moved without visible engines. No thrust, no propulsion systems that Imperial sensors could detect. They simply glided through space as if reality itself was moving out of their way. Their energy signatures alone were brighter than stars. "How many?" Kessin demanded. Vrain's voice shook when he answered. "Our systems cannot count them all, my lord. Current estimate is 2.3 million vessels." The number hung in the air. 2.3 million. The entire Valerie Empire possessed 80,000 warships. It had taken them 10,000 years to build that fleet. Humanity had hidden to point. 3 million ships in the darkness between galaxies. Suddenly, every screen in the command center flickered. Every display across the entire planet. Every communication system in the Empire. The same face appeared on all of them. It's uninvited and unblockable. Admiral Chen Shi was sitting in a command chair aboard one of the cathedral ships. The view behind her showed the human armada stretching to infinity. She was still wearing her simple dark blue uniform. She was still smiling. "Hi, Arbiter Kessin," she said. "I apologize for interrupting your celebration. I thought it was time we had an honest conversation." Kessin stared at her image. He wanted to speak, but no words came. "I should properly introduce my people," Chen continued. "What you conquered 6 months ago were our colonies. Listening posts, really. We established them 3 centuries ago to monitor this region of the galaxy. We wanted to see who might come knocking on our door." She paused, letting the words sink in. "See, High Arbiter, humanity learned a hard lesson long ago. The galaxy is not a safe place. There are many species out there, and some of them are very aggressive. Some of them are very powerful. When we first ventured out into the stars, we announced ourselves proudly. We built great fleets. We colonized hundreds of worlds. We made ourselves visible." Her smile faded slightly. "It nearly destroyed us. A species called the Collectors found us. They were ancient and hungry and utterly without mercy. They killed billions of our people. They burned our worlds. They hunted us to the edge of extinction. We survived barely, and we learned. We learned that survival in this universe requires patience. It requires secrecy. It requires the wisdom to hide your strength until you truly need it." The holographic display shifted, showing a map of the galaxy. The Valori Empire was marked in red, stretching across 4,000 star systems. But surrounding it, in the spaces between stars, in the darkness where nothing was supposed to exist, blue lights began to appear. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. Human outposts. Human stations. Human ships. Hidden throughout the galaxy, invisible, watching. "We have been observing your empire for 3,000 years, Chen said. "Waiting to see what kind of species you were. When you found our colonies and chose conquest instead of cooperation, we had our answer." Kessin finally found his voice. "What do you want?" Admiral Chen looked at him through the screen. Her eyes were old and deep, filled with something that might have been sadness, That is the question, is it not? She said. Your empire has 80,000 ships. We have 2.3 million. Your technology is powerful, but ours is 11,000 years more advanced. We could destroy you in days. Hours, perhaps? She paused. But we will not. The command center fell completely silent. We did not reveal ourselves to punish you, High Arbiter. We revealed ourselves because it was time. Your expansion has reached a point where contact was inevitable. We chose to make that contact on our terms. Chen leaned forward. Here is what you need to understand. We do not want your empire. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your people as slaves or subjects. We want something much more valuable. Kessin asked. Admiral Chen smiled again. This time, it was warm. We want you to grow. We want you to learn. We want you to become something better than you are. And we are willing to wait a very, very long time for that to happen. The transmission ended. Kessin stood in the command center, surrounded by his advisors, watching 2.3 million ships hang in the darkness. Beyond the galaxy, he had conquered humanity's doorstep. He had never imagined what was behind the door. The Valori Grand Armada assembled. In the darkness between stars, every warship the Empire possessed gathered for what their commanders knew would be the final battle. 80,000 vessels formed into perfect formation. Their weapons charged, their shields at maximum power. Against them hung the human fleet. 2.3 million cathedral ships spread across the void like a wall of light. Each one of those ships was larger than an entire Valori battle group. Each one possessed more firepower than the Empire's entire armada combined. It was not a battle. It was an execution waiting to happen. High Arbiter Kessin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human ships through the observation window. They had not moved since arriving. They had not fired. They simply waited, patient and silent, for whatever would come next. A communication request appeared on his console. Admiral Chen was asking to meet, in person, aboard her flagship. She promised safe passage and guaranteed his return. His advisors begged him not to go. It was a trap, they said. The humans would take him hostage, or kill him, or humiliate him before the galaxy. Kessin went anyway. There was nothing left to lose. A small shuttle carried him across the void between the fleets. As he approached the human flagship, he saw its true size for the first time. It was not just a ship, it was a world. Forests grew along its hull. Rivers flowed through transparent channels. Lights glowed from a million windows. Humanity had not built warships, they had built homes. The shuttle docked at a small port. Human soldiers met him there, but they carried no weapons. They were polite and professional, guiding him through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The architecture was unlike anything Kessin had ever seen. Some sections looked ancient, built from stone and wood in styles that predated spaceflight. Other sections were so advanced that he could not understand what he was looking at. The humans had been building this ship for thousands of years, generation after generation, adding to it, improving it, making it home. They brought him to a garden. It was impossible. A full garden, with earth plants growing under artificial sunlight. Surrounded by trees and flowers and the sound of running water, the air smelled sweet and alive. Kessin stood at the entrance, unable to move, unable to speak. Admiral Chen was waiting for him on a bench beside a small pond. She was older than he remembered, the lines on her face deeper, but her eyes were still calm and knowing. "High Arbiter," she said. "Thank you for coming." Kessin walked toward her slowly. His legs felt weak. His mind was full of questions, but only one mattered. "Why have you not destroyed us?" Chen gestured for him to sit beside her. He did, too exhausted to stand. "Because destruction is easy," she said. "Any child can break a toy. Any fool can burn a forest. It takes wisdom to build something. It takes patience to help something grow. We conquered your people. We enslaved your colonies, you did." Chen nodded. "And if we destroyed you for that, what would we prove? That we are stronger? We already know that. That you deserved punishment? Perhaps. But punishment does not create change. It only creates fear. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small crystal. It glowed with inner light, data swirling inside it. This contains star charts to 17 garden worlds. We prepared them centuries ago, seeding them with life, making them ready for habitation. They are far from here, in a region of space where no other species will bother you for a very long time. Kessin stared at the crystal. You are giving us worlds? We are giving you a chance. Chen pressed the crystal into his hands. Take your people. Build new civilizations. Learn from your mistakes. Grow into something better than you are. And if we refuse, if we choose to fight, Chen looked at him with something that might have been sadness, then you will die. All of you. Every ship, every world, every soul. We have the power to erase you from existence, and we will use it if we must. Her voice softened. But we do not want to. We have seen too many species end in fire. We are tired of watching civilizations burn. Kessin looked down at the crystal in his hands. It was warm, pulsing with energy, filled with the coordinates of a future he had never imagined. Why? He asked. Why mercy? We showed you none. Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. She looked out at the garden, at the plants growing under artificial light, at the life that had been carried between galaxies for 11,000 years. When my people were nearly destroyed, she said, when the collectors had burned our worlds and killed our children and hunted us to the edge of extinction, we were saved. Another species found us, ancient and powerful, far beyond anything we could imagine. They could have ignored us. They could have conquered us. They could have finished what the collectors started. She turned to look at Kessin. Her eyes were bright with memory. Instead, they helped us. They gave us shelter. They taught us how to survive. They asked nothing in return except a promise that when we became strong enough, we would do the same for others. She smiled, and for the first time, Kessin understood what that smile meant. It was not patience or arrogance or mockery. It was hope. We are still keeping that promise, Chen said. Species after species, century after century, we find the young ones, the aggressive ones, the ones who make mistakes, and we give them the chance to become something more. Kessin looked at the crystal again. Then he looked at Admiral Chen. Then he looked out at the garden, at the impossible beauty of a world built inside a ship, at the 11,000 years of survival and patience and hope that had created it. What if we waste this chance? He asked, what if we take these worlds and build another empire just like the old one? Then we will be watching. We are always watching. Chen stood up and extended her hand to help him rise. But I do not think you will. I have studied your people, High Arbiter. You are young and proud and frightened of a universe you do not understand. But you are not evil. You simply need time to learn. She walked him back to his shuttle. At the docking port, she stopped and turned to face him one last time. The Valori Empire ends today, she said. But the Valori people do not have to. Take the crystal. Take your people. Build something new. And maybe, in a few thousand years, we will meet again. As equals, Kessin boarded his shuttle. He flew back across the void to his fleet. He gathered his commanders and showed them the crystal and told them what Admiral Chen had said. There was anger at first, demands for revenge, calls for one final glorious battle, but slowly the anger faded. They looked at the human fleet, at the 2.3 million ships that could destroy them in an instant, and they understood. They had been given a gift they did not deserve. It would take generations to understand why the Valore Empire fell that day. Not to fire and destruction, but to mercy. They took the garden worlds that humanity offered. They built new cities and new cultures and new ways of thinking. They told their children the story of the humans who could have destroyed them and chose not to. And in the vast darkness between galaxies, humanity remained what it had always been, the watchers in the void, the patient gardeners. The ancient civilization that conquered by choosing not to, some empires are remembered for. What they destroyed, humanity would be remembered for what they allowed to grow.